Good afternoon or late morning for Denis.
Late morning will do for me.
There you go. How's everybody doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good, thanks. Yeah, I got my still got my heater on in my office though, so it's a little chilly in the basement, but other than that, it's good. Uh awesome. Well, as people, if I think we might have one more trickling in today. I know a couple people sent their regrets, so we'll jump right in. Um and I thought um well, a couple things. Um, I wanted to share a little bit about what we did, Jason, uh, and the group did earlier because for Denny's benefit. We did a demo video shoot day the other day. So I've found I've done it a couple of different ways. I've rented theaters before. Um, this time we rented a church actually because I'd seen some videos of theirs on YouTube and was like, oh, that stage looks really cool and the lights look really cool. And um, so we rented this church for a morning and brought in, I guess it was four of us all together, right, Jason? Because I did some stuff too. And I paid, I think, $1,200 maybe to rent the space, and then probably AV is going to cost another 12 to 13 for the videographers and the camera equipment and all that stuff. Um, and we were able to just have 4 hours to do footage, and we were able to do two or three camera shoots depending on
Very
the
cool.
setups that we had, and yeah, and so it's just an idea that for speakers in general, get together with a few friends, and because that's
You
one of
have
the
like an audience and everything, or
we
just those who are.
didn't have an audience, so if you wanted to do the next level, you could create an event of some kind and make, either I'm of two minds about that. Like, my we tried it. I think last year we tried to get an audience, and we just said, "Look, just it's free. Just come and listen." And like two people came. So I almost think you have to make it like an event that people pay a little bit for, and that might actually make more people come, even
Yeah,
though that's
like
a little
try to
counterintuitive.
organize like a real event with topics and everything, and then use that as a side.
Yeah, and then you just have the flexibility because it's your event to do the recording. But um, what's nice about not having an audience there is it allows you to do some things that you might not do with a live audience, like put the cameraman right on the stage next to the speaker or something. Like we didn't do that this time, but we've done that before, or like go and um, yeah, and then we were able to also do uh, testimonials afterwards, and we had each of the other speakers do testimonials for each other because again, our clients are not going to know, um, you know, are not going to know the other speakers unless one of us is crazy famous, which is not likely the case. So um, it gives you some video testimonials as well. So anyway, just uh, a food for thought thing. It could be something that a CAPS chapter does too, for that matter, actually. Uh,
Yeah, we do similar things in Quebec, with an event called "So You Think You Can Speak." Actually, you're
right,
going
right,
to
right, 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 right.
one
Yeah,
of,
that's right.
going to be
Part of
on
it.
one of those in June or July, I think.
Yeah,
It's essentially the same idea. Like we get a bunch of members who are, or actually non-members as well, who are interested in getting some footage, and we split the bill on renting the space and my camera keeps. Okay, hold on. Can you still hear me?
we can hear you fine. Yeah,
Yeah, my cameras just keep going on and off for some reason. Um, so we rent a space, we hire a team, and then however much it costs is separated by X speakers who want to have the footage, and then we just take turns and we do our bit, and it's a very free form thing, but we make it an event, so the audience are the members attending the event because it's a bit of a happening at the same time, and
right.
that works pretty well. We've been doing it for couple years now.
Oh, cool.
So yeah.
There you go. So I stole it from you then.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, one of the things that we do with this, which is nice, is so again, it's called So You Think You Can Speak. So it's kind of like that show, So You Think You Can Dance. So we've got
Right.
judges. You'll be one of those judges, I'm assuming.
Right. Yeah.
And so the takeaway for the audience is that, well, first of all, you get to see this. This is fun. And then also, every judge gives feedback after every person goes on stage. So you get to learn from that feedback as well that you can apply to what you do. And you also get to hear other people commenting on speakers, opens your mind on different things. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool event.
I
Very
like
cool.
that.
Yeah, very cool.
Hmm.
Awesome. Okay, well, so as always, I'll start with an idea or a strategy to kind of help you with your marketing efforts, and then I'll jump into questions. And Michelle's just joining us now, which is great. So today, one of the things that we're experimenting with now is custom landing pages. So what I mean by that is taking the core audience, or maybe two audiences that you're trying to reach. So let's say that you work primarily with, I'll use my example. I primarily work in healthcare. So I will create a landing page, or a separate page on my website that's hidden, not in the menu, and just tailor the regular homepage content to that audience so that it's very specifically for those people, which, so basically it's kind of changing some terminology around, probably. Instead of talking about, your audience or your team or your kind of that broad term, you can get really specific. And what's nice is, I mean, for basically the amount of effort it takes to create the page, you can have as many of those as you want. And so then when you get a prospect that's coming to you saying, send us more information, you send them that page as opposed to just, go to my website. And it makes them feel like, oh, this, Denny isn't just someone who can help us with, diversity, equity, inclusion, or something like, or strategies around that. He really knows our industry, and you can go as in detail as you want about that, from, again, changing the kind of language of the audience, but also, the past client list, right? You can make all the past client lists just people in that industry. You could have all of the testimonials come from people in that industry. And so then they really feel like, oh, they're a specialist in this particular group. So that's a strategy that I picked up from somebody else, thought it was brilliant. We're applying it as we speak. But I wanted to share that with you today. And with that, let's open up the floor to some questions, and see where we go.
Can you share one of those pages, Mark? Just to kind of give us a look, yeah.
I don't have one at the tip of my fingers, Michelle, but yes, I can find one for you.
You're still using CoachLab, are you, Mark?
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah, I'm using CoachLab as my website platform, and most of the back end. So it will do mailing list. It will do you can even host a course there, actually, if you wanted to. I haven't done that yet, but yeah, it'll do a fair bit.
CoachLab is like WordPress, is that it?
Similar. It's a website building. It probably more closely resembles like a Wix or something, as opposed to, because it gives you pre-built templates. And
yeah, it's run by a local entrepreneur here in Moncton.
Yeah, it was. So I'll put a link in the chat. I get no kickbacks on this, but I maybe should. I think it's IO. Let me double check.
Yep.
It is. Okay. Yeah, it's a local entrepreneur who built it, and he, when he was doing the beta for it, one of the templates he literally built for me. So it's a very much a keynote speaker centric template. But then he's built others as well. And so you can kind of go through and look and see. But it's built for, again, it's called Coach Lab. It's built for coaches and speakers and trainers. So all of the templates and the different, not just the homepage, but also the other pages. So he's built like product pages and all of those things are all, and then you can customize it as much as you want. But yeah, I really like it. I moved from, did I move straight from WordPress to that? Yeah, I guess I did. Yeah. I got tired of all my plugins breaking in WordPress. The more I piled them on together, the more things started to break.
Well, for landing pages, I've always wondered how to build a good one. I mean, the ones that I typically notice are the ones that are very American in style, like super long. Every word is really big. They keep repeating the same thing over and over again, like it's like this infomercial kind of thing.
Yeah.
I never was particularly a fan of that. So yes, I'd like to see examples of good landing pages that convert, but also don't feel like there's has to be an eagle and a, you know, stars and stripes on it.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, I would, in a total transparency, the landing page for this program, which I built in Coach Lab, which some of you saw and some of you maybe even didn't because I contacted many of you directly. Make sure I get it right. Is converting now. Like I don't have, it's not been up long enough to give you good stats on, you know, the conversion rate. But it is working, and I don't think it's. I know what you're talking about, Denny. It's, first of all, it's certainly not long, and second of all, it's not. I don't think it's hypey, if you like. It's a super simple, like here's the value proposition. Here's how it works. One quick testimonial. Checkout at the bottom. Like it's pretty straightforward. So that's one example, but I'm certainly happy to dig up some from others as well. I know what you're saying, that like long sales letter thing is was super popular for a while. I don't know. I honestly don't know how popular it is anymore, but it certainly was. I'm of the same mind you are. It did not fit my personality, my brain. Like I don't want to be that person. So I was never a big fan of them. Jose is asking, yeah, so Coach Lab is a platform that you can use to build a speaker website. Exactly. Yeah. So what's nice about it is, I mean, you can do it on anything, right? You can use WordPress, you can use Wix, you can use anything you want. What I like about it is, A, it's Canadian. It was a local guy from New Brunswick who built it, and still runs it. And B, it was again built for, you know, basically for service providers, if you like for coaches and speakers and trainers, people who sell services. And so there's some things that he's done that just make life a little easier for us versus maybe other platforms where you can still do it. It's just going to take some more customization and some more, it makes it a little more streamlined and easy to do. And it's reasonably priced too. I forget what I pay, but it's like $500 a year or something like that. It's not expensive at all. So that's my little plug for Coach Lab that I wasn't really planning to do, but.
So I'm putting a link in chat to what I think I have is the closest to a landing page, and I'd like to get your.
Yeah, please. That's great.
So I'm doing these webinars, and it's not a landing page in the sense like it's not there for that purpose, really just there to say, hey, here's this webinar. here's how you can register to it. And like if you compare that, which I think is more like an actual web page on your website, like
Mhm.
would be needed to turn that into an actual landing page? And what is the difference between this and an actual landing page from how you're looking at it from your standpoint?
So I think this is great, Denny, by the way. I
Hmm.
think the biggest difference, and I in total transparency, am I using the term correctly? Maybe not. Like there might be other people that be like, oh no, a landing page means this. Um, what I guess what I mean when I say it, uh, is that it's a page dedicated to a specific uh group and or for a specific purpose. So like in this case, it's an opt-in to a webinar.
Mhm.
The only thing I see here that I would say might improve the conversion rate right off the top is I would take the banner, like I would take the menu out. So if there's a way for you to, in Coach Lab, I know you
Uh,
can do it, and I'm sure in most platforms you can. You just hide the menu. Um,
a standalone page, it's like a tunnel to.
right. So it's like there's nothing else for you to do on this page except do what I want you to do, which is opt in or close the page
Got
or
it. Yeah.
click back, right? Because what happens with a page like what you've built is there's too many opportunities to do other things, right?
Right.
Oh, look,
And
he's got programs. I'm gonna go look at those. And the nature of all of us is we get distracted and then we forgot why we got there in the first place. So I think if you give them a place where all they can do is whatever it is you want them to do, buy the book, opt into the webinar, buy the course, whatever. Um,
basically a
you're
tunnel,
forcing them to make a decision, right?
yeah, a tunnel that leads to that decision and targeted to a very specific audience, like as laser focused as possible.
Right. And if you're still testing something and you don't know who the audience is, then that's fine. Um, when I was, when I was referencing that, obviously once you figure it out, or if you start to get a picture of the kinds of, the more specific you can be, I guess is what I'm trying to spit out, the more effective it will be, right? Because the more that you're reading a page and you go, oh, that's me, oh, that's me, oh, that's me, the more likely you are to have, you're building trust. And so people will more likely say yes. Whereas if they go through and they're kind of like, man, it's kind of subconsciously, probably, right? They're not actually maybe registering it consciously, but they're going, yeah, that's kind of me. Um, they're less likely to do something with it.
Yeah.
But just to delineate, um, what I'm also suggesting is that from a speaker perspective, you might want to have a standalone page if you have a particular industry that you work in a lot, right? So that when you're directing people from that industry, I mean, again, in theory, you could have 100 of these, but I don't think that's practical. But let's say you often work with one particular group, you might have a customized version of your homepage for that group, just so that it feels that much more personal to them.
Hmm.
So we're going to do it like I'm going to do one for nurses, is my example. And so where the rest of my website, if you came on it as a nurse, it's like what I was just saying. It's speaking to you, but it's in a very general sense because it's also trying to speak to what I call helping professionals. So it's also trying to speak to a teacher. It's also trying to speak to a social worker. It's also trying to speak to a meeting planner, who might work for a meeting planning company that actually is not a member of any of those groups. It's trying to do all of those things, whereas this customized page can be very specific. And so again, it's just that next level of sales tactic to say, oh, I really feel like they're talking to me. And then if you want to get, super cool, I'm starting to play with um, some of these AI avatar things where you can actually build. You can build. So first of all, you build the avatar of yourself, but then using your CRM, I'm not there yet, but he showed me how it can be done. The guy who runs this software company. Using your CRM, you can basically plug in fields into a script and generate a video from you that says, "Hi, Denis, thanks for making your appointment to talk to me next week, blah, 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 blah." And it's you talking, but you can do it at scale because it's an avatar. And as long as, in my opinion, as long as, and this is what this guy's did, the guy who runs the company, I got a confirmation message when I booked the call with him, and it was his avatar doing this video confirming his appointment with me. But it was also very explicit that it was an avatar. And I mean, you can tell, right? If you're looking, you can still, right now, you can tell. Probably in
I can notice it.
another year, you won't be able to tell anymore. But it was very clearly, he wasn't trying to pretend like it was him, if that makes sense. But he was demonstrating what the tool could do, which I thought was really cool. Anyway, sidebar.
So if I understand correctly, I'm with Jeremy the merchant right now. I'm working through his the Sales Edge, which is the CRM platform is phenomenal, really phenomenal. He's creating my website through this platform, and then I get everything else. So understanding what you're talking about is so from the perspective of how it's going to work within the platform that I'm using, because I'm with Wix as well right now and doing that transition, is that if I do a promotion on Facebook and I do create a funnel, within that funnel, I've got the gift targeting the people, the specific group that I'm looking at targeting. And within that, there's going to be a landing page. That landing page to get them to buy into something else or something that is specifically focused or geared for them.
Yep.
What I'm hearing you say is that it's good to have that landing page in your website, which is hidden from the menu, whether it's 1, 2, 3 landing page. I could have one for healthcare. I could have one for educators, etc. And that's hidden so that people who hop on my website won't see all of that stuff. But when I connect with someone via email and there is that first contact, they want to know more, then I can actually put that URL specifically in the email, send that out to them. So it's more hands-on versus the concept of the funnel, which is usually automated email, landing page, purchase, or connect with.
Yeah, you've got it. Yeah, exactly. Now, in theory, you could have different funnels for different groups, and you could also, so that could all be, so that could be automated as well, I suppose. But yeah, that's exactly it, Michelle. And so it would be something like, my website is markblack.ca, so it would be like markblack.ca/healthcare, right? And so that's not going to appear in the menu, but it does appear if you typed in that URL. And again, I think it's a good idea to have it be something like that so that you can remember it easily, right? So that if you want to just whip it off in an email, you can do that and you know what it is. All right, other questions? What are we working on? What are we struggling with? What's holding us back? What's next on the agenda for you? Can we be helpful?
I can chime in, I guess, on where am I stuck right now. And by the way, I mean, thank you so much for putting on the video recording stuff at the church. It was really fun.
Cool.
Sorry I had to bow out quick, but it was really fun. It was nice to put a mic on my ear and talk gibberish for a half hour and get myself recorded.
Well, you didn't talk gibberish, number one.
No,
Let
no,
me
no.
do that.
I'm kidding. Okay.
It was very good, and Michelle was also very good.
Yeah, I missed that one, but yeah. But
no, you're welcome. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what my next step is, honestly. I know I have a keynote. I know I have a workshop. I've been building my LinkedIn following, dabbling with Wix. I have kind of a baseline website. and you know, I feel like I'm in analysis paralysis right now. So
Yeah.
you know, CRM conversation, Pipedrive, Zoho,
Yeah.
MailerLite, like all the things. What would you say is kind of the, and I don't want you to answer the question for me. I guess I'm wondering what I should focus on now.
Sure. I think so. I mean, what we're really trying to do when it comes to keynoting and getting like booking gigs, or speeches, is getting a bunch of eyeballs on our work so that some of those people can resonate with it and say, yes, that's, we want to bring Jason to our event.
Mm.
So what are the elements required to make that happen? Well, we need the home base for them to go to, right? And so in a, physical business world, that would be your storefront. In our world, that's your website, right? That's your home base. So I'd say, if you're saying what order do I do this in, I think the basic website is one, because otherwise you have nowhere to send them.
Mhm.
Now, does the website need to be like a fully fleshed out entity with, lead capture and blogs and all of the things that a website designer is going to tell you need to have? No. For it to work at a basic level, no, I don't think it does. I think if you have a single page that has a value proposition, like here's what Jason can do for you. It's got a demo video, which very soon you're going to have, and it's got a, click here to schedule a conversation at a basic level. That's the minimal viable product. Oh, excellent. Okay, so let's take a look. So Jason just shared his website in the chat.
Yeah, so it's a shitty first draft of,
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, well, that's 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean that's how we all do it.
Yeah,
Um,
and I've been working kind of building out my LinkedIn outreach as well. Which is why I've been, building the following through Dripify. It's been
Yep.
actually working really well. Went from little under 1,000 followers last year to, I think I just hit 6,000, which is really great.
Oh wow. Okay, excellent.
Now I just
Yeah.
need to nurture those.
Yep.
And then so having the video, like, the video footage, and then the video footage from the B event in November is going to be useful to create some content, some reels. I do want to also kind of find a way to transcribe the talk with AI so that it can also bring up some content ideas, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
That seems to be working well right now. So working on
Yeah,
that
this
as
is great,
well.
Jason. I
And then
mean,
the website, yeah,
yeah,
obviously.
I think the website is great. I think if you, and again, I'm talking like we're talking, presentations versus, say, coaching or consulting, which
Mhm.
probably is the video is less important.
Yeah.
Then you want, coaching and consulting, you want case studies and you want testimonials and well, all of which can be written.
Mhm.
But yeah, so once you have the home base, then it's okay, who do I think is a good fit, right? And that's where those LinkedIn contacts come into play. And
Yeah.
you just literally start sending people, without being aggressive and spammy. You start to just try and facilitate some conversations,
Mm.
right? Which you're good at. Um, Saying, hey, you might not know, maybe you know me but you're not familiar with everything that I do, or you may not know that I also do this thing. I'd love to bring my, keynote to your event. And you start having those conversations. And again, depending on where you are in your business and what your revenue model is, I will say to some people, depending on how on those things and how bad do you want to make keynoting a part of this.
Mm.
I've said to people, look, offer to do a couple of free ones, right? Just be like, hey, yeah, my fee is, and make sure that they get the value. So to just say, yeah, I'll do it for free. No, say my fee is XYZ, whatever it is, $2,500, $5,000, whatever your number is. And you should just, all of us, we need to pick a number if we don't have one already. And I mean, I'm happy to chat with you about what that looks like if you're not sure.
Yeah, that'd
But
be useful.
the transparent answer is you pick a number, right? That you're comfortable saying out loud. Actually, that you're a tiny bit uncomfortable saying out loud. But you say that's my number. But look, I'm at a stage where I want to gather more testimonials from people. I want to get, I want to, you know, try this material, whatever the angle is. And so because of that, I would be willing to do this particular event for you for free. And then, you know, they say yes, you send them an invoice, right? That shows regular fee minus special discount of whatever. So that but they still understand, because that's important. That's a mistake that I did not do that in early in my career. I just did a bunch of stuff for free. And I mean, it worked out. It just took longer. But what you don't want, especially in a, you know, small place like Moncton, New Brunswick, is to do too many of those where people just think you're doing it for free, because we become victims of word of mouth marketing instead of beneficiaries of word of mouth marketing. And people say, oh yeah, Jason was here and he was awesome and he was free.
So you're saying I should send you an invoice for Level Up?
Yes, you should. 100%. 100%.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So what about that? I mean, so Level Up, that's your event, right, Mark? That's the one that you've been doing for years?
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever considered using that event for what we were saying earlier about giving an opportunity to get footage recorded with an audience and everything? I mean, that's an environment you control.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great, I have, and we do. So, yeah, one of my kind of value propositions to the speakers, because depending on budgets and sponsors, I can either give them a small honorarium. When I started, I paid one speaker, the kind of headliner, and everybody else was doing me a favor. And then as the years gone on, it's been that or a small fee. But part of the value proposition for them is, yeah, you're not going to get paid a ton, but you are going to get this 2-camera video shoot of your whole presentation. And I'm going to give you that, and you can do whatever you want with it. And I don't own it. Level Up doesn't own it. You own it. I do ask them to let us use it, because the other thing that we do is we have a something called the Level Up Vault. And so I've got this library of all of those keynotes from all of the past years that we can then give access to. I haven't done it yet, but at some point that's potentially a product where I can say, look, we've got, much like the CAPS Academy to me, right? Like, here's this library of keynotes that you can tap into if you want to. I may never sell it as a product, but it's I wanted to have it as an option.
It's an option, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can only echo to what you were saying about the risk of speaking for free. In my industry, which is IT, we have a gazillion conferences where everybody just flocks every year and nobody gets paid to speak, and you get identified as, of course you'll come to speak for us, right? I mean, you like to do that, and there's never a question of money. So I had to break away from that entire group a couple of years ago when I joined CAPS in 2017. As a matter of fact, that's when I realized that I should be getting paid for what I was doing. And rebuilding this in this industry is extremely hard, because everybody expects everybody to do this for free, volunteer their time,
Right.
expertise, because we're so nice. Like, yeah, but nice doesn't pay the mortgage, you know? So yeah, it's something to be very mindful of as early on as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if we've talked about this on previous calls, but if I'm repeating myself, tell me. But we have a list of reasons why I will discount. And so, depending on the event, if that applies and they're trying to negotiate, we might do that. But first of all, as a rule, we don't, right? Like, I'm not just going to offer a discount to try and close a deal. But if they come back to us and say, look, yeah, we'd love to have you, but we have, 80% of the fee. We don't have the full fee. And I want to do it. Then we'll say, okay, well, great. If you, because you're local would be one, right? If I can, I have what I call my sleep in my own bed fee. If I can get up, if I can leave my own bed and go back to sleep in my own bed that day, then I'm willing to discount that fee because that's pretty awesome. When you have kids and life is busy. But there might be something else. It might be that, look, this is a national association conference and all of the provincial chairs are going to be at this event because this is when they have their meeting. And that means I'm going to get in front of 9 or 10 potential people who can book me for the provincial conference. Then so I know that in my head, then I might go, oh yeah, we're willing to do that if you're willing to provide a testimonial to help us send that to all of the other provincial chairs. Or if I know that it's going to be a big event in a really nice venue. So sometimes you'll know, like, the conference is 6 months out, you see what the venue is, and you're like, oh wow, this is going to be a great stage, and I want to get some great video footage. And you say to them, look, you don't have the full budget, but if you would allow us to bring 2 cameras in, and we'll be, out of your way, but to get video footage of this, then we'd be willing to discount by this much. Things. So we have those kind of things that we do, but again, we show it on the invoice. Here's the full fee. Here's the discount you're getting because of XYZ. Here's what you're going to pay. And that's for them, but it's also for you, right? So that's subliminally or whatever you want to call it. You're reinforcing that this is what you're worth. Because a large part of this is that self-belief. It's that mindset of being able to say, no, I'm going to charge this much and I know I'm worth it. And call it woo-woo, call it whatever you want. The more you actually believe that, the easier it is to get that fee. Within reason. I mean, if you all decided you're 50 grand tomorrow and you're not that good, well, it's probably not going to work. But by and large, people err on the side of being too cheap. And when people say, because they often do, and I was one of them, but I'm already, I struggle to get my fee at 5,000 or my fee at 2,500 or my fee at 7,500 or whatever it is. I've already got people trying to negotiate that. Now I'm going to go even higher. And inevitably what I have found, and I started at $1,500, $500 in schools, $1,500 for associations. And now we're doing 10,000 and 12,000 in the US. Is as you go up, you leave behind an audience who can't afford you, but you also get on the radar of an audience that previously would not look at you. Because for whatever reason, perception becomes reality, and people say, well, if it's only that, if it's not this much, it can't be very good. And so you could be an amazing $5,000 speaker, and there are a bunch of conferences that are never gonna, a bunch of organizations that are never gonna look at you because they just assume, a great speaker starts at $20,000. I'm not, and that's not where I am, by the way, but you get the idea, right? Just like there are people who are going to go to the Mercedes lot, they're never going to go to the Toyota lot, even though, and I know nothing about cars, but look, they both have 4 tires and a steering wheel and get you from point A to point B, right?
There seems to be an agreement in the speaking industry or the meeting industry that the average fee for a keynote is around 7,500. Like, that's what I keep hearing as an average for a lot of people. And I think that speaks a lot to where everyone sort of sets their own fee at and how low it is compared to the expectation of that industry. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with you, Denis. I think that some people would say that, yeah, different people give a different number to that, but I think I would tend to agree that it's around that number. And again, that it depends on the market. So I would also say that that number in Atlantic Canada is probably more like 5 or 6. For whatever reasons, budgets are smaller population, my money mindset problem. I don't know what it is. I know that I struggle to get full fee here. I struggle more to get full fee for events here than I do outside of here. And it also, by the way, might be that I'm from here. So there is definitely, in some cases, the hometown speaker problem, where if you're not, if you don't have to get on a plane to be there, then you're not as good. People don't articulate it that way, but that's sort of like this perceived thing. And also, again, the number is different in the US. So if that number is 75 here, and again, that's probably close, it's probably 10 in the US, or maybe more.
Yeah, we have the same reality here in Quebec when it comes to French content versus English content. So the exact same offering, if I do it in French, it's much harder to sell it and justify it than if I do that in English. Same person, same context, same content, 2 different languages,
Interesting.
not perceived the same way at all. So same thing as what you're saying. And actually, back to what you were saying about the sleep in my own bed fee or discount or whatever. That's also a great way to negotiate it. Yeah, my fee is 10K, but given that that it's around 6 here that I can really get in Moncton, for instance, well, I'm willing to agree to 6, but we need to make sure that I'm going to get this, and this, and then you get value that is not monetized, but it's still something that is valuable to you. That you can leverage testimonials, like footage or whatnot, and you still get the value, and you still get that gig, which 6K is still 6K, right? So
Yeah, that's beautiful, Denny, and you're absolutely right. So so 2 things about that. One is, yes, absolutely, exactly what you said. You can also use the similar kind of idea to build added value and charge more. So think about the things, and I think we've already talked about this, but think about things that you can do in addition to a keynote that don't cost you a ton of time and effort, that you've either already created or a workshop you've done before, or other things that a client would value that are not a ton of effort, and add those as options and add an upcharge for them. Right. So for example, I do a thing where you can I call it, you just have me for the day. And I say, like, use and abuse me. Right. So I'm gonna do the keynote, I'm gonna do a workshop, I'll do a book signing, but I'll do whatever you want. You want me to do a Q&A while I'm there? Great. You want me to do a panel while I'm there? Great. You want me to have dinner with the committee? Great. Like, whatever you want me to do. 9 times out of 10, it's a keynote and a workshop and I'm done. But I just say, like, I am yours for the day, and that's this much. Right. And again, perceived value. I'm there for the day. If I'm traveling, what am I going to do? I'm going to be sitting in my hotel room by myself, checking emails. Like, I'd rather be hanging out with the client anyway. But it's perceived value for that. The number of times that a client is like, "Oh my gosh, do you sign books?" Well, yeah, I want everybody to buy a book, like, right? Or like, you'd have dinner with us? Well, yeah, it's better than eating takeout by myself in my room, right? But to them, there's value there, right? So those are the kinds of things that you can kind of throw in either as add-ons. Now, I would never like itemize dinner with me as an extra $500, right? But I would include like all of those things as options. And or use them as negotiation tools to say, like, if I feel like they're on the fence, I'd be like, well, what if we also did this for you? Right? Or what if I also did a follow-up webinar a week later to anybody that wants to join us to reinforce the messaging from the keynote? Oh, you do that? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the dinner after yourself is not glamorous. Yeah, absolutely right, Jose. Yeah, the number of times that I go from this super fancy event to then, eating drive-through in my room. It's like the juxtaposition of that is pretty hilarious.
I'll admit I'm a total big fan of going out to a nice restaurant alone. I'm totally into that.
Yeah.
Take out and
Well, and
not so much,
yeah,
but nice restaurant if I'm traveling, I'll do that anytime.
I've done that. Yeah, I've done that as well. I have no problem eating by myself. Um, which is why, uh, flat travel fees become really helpful, right? Because you can, um, so by flat travel fees, I just mean like either a per diem. So what we do right now, and I'm actually moving to probably doing just an all-inclusive fee. But what we do right now is it's fee plus airfare plus per diem. So however many days I'm going to be on the road, typically that's going to be 2 on it for a keynote because I'm going to fly the day before, probably fly back after. Might be 3 depending. And we just charge a flat fee for the day, and that covers gas, meals, Ubers, whatever. And that way, again, if I want to go to a nice restaurant, I go to a nice restaurant, and maybe I end up losing $20 or $50. And if I want to eat, you know, skip the dishes, then I make $20. But it all comes out in the wash, and I don't have to feel guilty about sending a client a bill for a $150 meal.
Yeah, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, right? I mean,
That's it for things like that. I mean, yeah, comes out in the wash, generally speaking. Airfare is a little trickier, so that's why, like, I tried an all-inclusive fee years ago, but I made the mistake of it's just like, this is the fee no matter what, no matter where I'm going, and it backfired because I underestimated the average cost of airfare. And so as I'm looking at going to all inclusive again, because I've heard a couple people have really good success with it, it'll be a per event number. In other words, my fee is the same, but before we actually send them what it's going to cost as a total number, we'll price out the airfare, right? So then we'll go, okay, well, what's my fee plus for this event? It's plus 1,500, but for that event, it might be plus 2,500 because it's, the flights are crazy expensive or whatever. But some clients, I think most clients actually, as long as the number fits in their budget, prefer that because it saves them. Like, you don't have to submit an expense report. You don't have to chase
Yeah.
for receipts or any of those things. So it makes their life easier, and it makes your life easier. It's also easier from an accounting perspective later because, and I might get this a little bit wrong because there's a reason why I hire an accountant. But if you are charging the client for every itemized item, then technically that's like a pass through. In other words, you're just collecting the money that's not really yours. And so there's a weird stuff with how you claim that in income because it's not really income. But anyway, it just makes things more complicated. You can do it, you just have to keep track of it. But that's why I like flat per diems make life easy.
there's something to be said too about when clients ask you, like my fee is the same whether it's in person or virtual. Like I decided long ago that I wouldn't differentiate
Okay.
with you,
Yep.
and it's a take it or leave it thing. And and as a result of that, because the thing is I don't want to travel all that much. Like I'd rather stay home and do it from home. So my whole argument is, yeah, the fee's the same. Where you save is on the travel itself.
Mm.
So the value of what I'm going to be sharing with you is going to be the same. This is the same content and everything. So the price is the same for that. But if you're short on money or this or that, I mean, the one way we can do this is you don't have to pay for my airfare, my hotel, my meals, all of that. So that works quite well, actually. People that are on the fence or don't really care either way, when you
Right.
start looking at what comes on top of the fee, they're like, oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, maybe we can do it that way instead. It's not as bad as we thought, and it's an easier sell now, of course, after COVID than it was before. because they've seen their businesses keep running pretty much.
Right, they know it works.
Radio is distributed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's interesting to me. Yeah, it's all just about positioning the number, right? Whether you position it as the virtual as a discount, or you position it as, no, this is the fee and then you're paying more because you want me to travel there. It's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other in terms of if the numbers were the same. It's just about, yeah, how do they perceive this? And to your point, it comes down to like what do you prefer? What do you prefer? What do you want them to choose more often? Right. That's why I think I think we've talked about before the idea of like the 3 packages. And you make that third package there's a bigger jump between 2 and 3 than there is between 1 and 2. Right. So the idea is 2 looks like a bargain compared to 3 because it's so much more expensive. And you want 3 to be such a big number that if they say yes, you're happy to do it because it's a big number, right? Because it's going to be more work. And that 2 is a bargain because they're going to get a bunch more stuff compared to 1. So you kind of play with the variables there and go, oh, okay, what's the lever that's going to make them go to 2 more often, assuming 2, and you make 2 the thing you want to do the most, right? Because at the end of the day, it's our business. We should be driving clients to do what we prefer. So, and in my case, although there are days when I don't love airports and planes, I want to be live and in person because I think that's where what I do works best. Jose, I would say the same is true for you. We can do it virtually, it's fine. But I think, again, content matters there, right? And context matters. If you're primarily, Jose, a storyteller, right, who's trying to move an audience in an emotional way, it's a little tougher to do through a camera lens unless you get really, really good at it. If you're primarily teaching and it's more about frameworks and skills and strategies, and then virtual probably works just as well, maybe it works better. In which case, yeah, you probably want people to do that. So yeah, exactly, Jose. That's how I feel. But again, to each their own, right? And if you want to build a virtual speaking business and you can do it, by all means. I struggle with it still from an energy management perspective. I find it tiring. This is not tiring. This is a conversation, but to perform, like to do a keynote virtually, I find difficult. However, there's, it's also nice to be able to come downstairs for an hour and a half and be done a keynote and go back upstairs and tuck my kids into bed. So yeah, whatever you think you want to do.
You also find that it's relevant relative to the type of topic, I guess, like, for Jose, for example, is it about the story or is it about the outcome? So in my case, my story of grief, I naturally feel like I prefer doing it in person. And then on the kind of social innovation side and the facilitation side, I obviously prefer doing it in person, but because it's more theory and teaching, I think the quality could be just as good. So do you find that the topic, like, does, beside the fact that
Yeah, I mean, topic.
Yeah,
Jason, I think, well, the way I would say it, and I'm not saying that in my ways that I'm totally right, but the way I would phrase it is that it's more about, less about topic, more about outcome, right? So if the primary outcome is inspiration, motivation, and obviously, and listen, I take for granted my approach anyway, and what I like to think I do, is that it's more than just moving somebody emotionally, it's also giving them actual tools that they can use. So I'm taking for granted that when I say inspirational speaker, that's what I'm talking about. But if that's the primary purpose of the speech, which is typically opener closer. Then I do think there's something about the energy in a room that can't be replicated. And so I think that's better done in person. If your primary purpose is information dissemination, then I think that virtually can often work just as well. So if you're there to share ideas and strategies, then yeah. Now look, we all know that if you have a really great interactive workshop in person, that's still probably better than doing virtual too. But yeah, I think it can be done effectively virtually. And that's me. Like there are I've seen some very skilled virtual presenters, and how they're able to basically be an AV team and a presenter at the same time, and they can do, you know, they're doing polls and they're doing all kinds of really cool interactive things, to get people virtually engaged in different ways. You know, that's possible. I'm not particularly good at it. Yeah, so you're still doing 50% virtual, Jose. That's interesting. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
And
so
are
I
you
find,
charging?
yeah, so I would say, could probably charge 66. I mean, technically 56.6%. So 2/3 of the fee for virtual, and then higher for in person. So I find virtual to be useful if it's on a date where I expect to have a lot of speaking engagements. So if it's International Day of Persons with Disabilities in the December last year, I recall I had, I think, 5 or 6 keynotes in like 48 hours.
Oh.
So those could only happen virtually. So I'm
Right.
happy that they all chose
Right.
to go virtual, because it wouldn't have been feasible logistically to be
Right.
here, there, everywhere. But I would say usually I do find that in person is why I got into this field in the first place, to face what at the time was
Right.
this seemingly insurmountable fear.
Right. Right. Yeah, in your case, that's particularly poignant, right? Because it's all kind of that's part of it's kind of a meta thing almost, because it's part of the message is like standing in front of a group of people.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, but to your point, I mean, for all of us, the option, especially if you're, it's a busy week, or maybe you even get a request for the same date. The number of times that I have 3 things booked for a month on the calendar, and then I get a request for a client, and it has to be on one of those 3 days in that month. Like the next, like a new client, a new opportunity, and you're like, oh, May, yep, sure, that's wide open. Oh, we need the 12th. Oh, it's like the only day I'm booked. The number of times that happens is shocking. And that's a time when I would say to them, look, it's not going to work. I have to be in this city, but I could do it virtually. And we offer them the virtual discount. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it's like, no, we want it in person. But when it works, it's great, right? Because it's like, okay, well, great. Now I can do the event, go to my hotel room, do the other event. And I just made, 160 or 170% of my fee for that day. So that's another opportunity to use that as an option. And you incentivize them by saying it's, I can't be with you in person. I'd still love to help. And the good news is it's cheaper for you if we do it virtually. Plus you're saving the travel. So in my case, it's a discount as well as no travel. But in Denise's case, it would be saving the travel. But either way, they're still winning from a budget perspective.
It really comes down to whatever works for you, really, and
Yeah.
what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, at the end of the look, at the end of the day, when it comes to fees, if you're not already familiar, if you haven't heard the term already, you will hear the more you're in this industry, people talk about something called fee integrity. And the idea of it is your fee is your fee. Like, don't be giving it one fee to this group and then something totally different to this group. And if you're all over the map, you have no fee integrity. That's the concept. But some people will talk about it in very strict terms, like your fee is $10,000. That's your fee, period. The reality is, I don't know a single speaker who, like, in the hallway, behind closed doors, whatever you want to, whatever analogy you want to use, when they're being honest, will say, I never discount for any reason. I just don't believe that, maybe there's a few people who are just so booked that they can afford to say no to somebody that's got 85% of the fee. But I don't believe in reality that happens very often. So in order to stay in fee integrity, we use these negotiation tools to say, okay, well, what else can you do for me? Right? As a value add to me to compensate for this difference so that I'm not just charging this amount to you and this amount to you. And it also, again, it helps me when I'm pitching the next client to not feel like I'm just making up a number out of thin air, which therefore makes me sound confident on the phone. And like, there's a whole bunch of knockoff consequences of that.
I need to drop for another call.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you all. I'll
Thanks,
see you.
Denny.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I just realized we're at 1 o'clock. Any other final questions before we wrap up?
Yeah, so I'll just add to the fee integrity thing. I like to ask for referrals. So if they tell me we've got, let's say, 70% of your fee, I'm like, fine, but we need to include 3 referrals in the agreements. You'll connect me with 3 people in your network who are in a position to book a keynote. And then I like to tell them, look, the only reason I'm doing this is to be fair towards all of the other clients who have paid the full fee.
Yeah, that's great. That's your second line. So I've done both of those things, Jose, which is, but thank you for that. And the second one is, I use that all the time, which is, look, because I don't want to be the bad guy, right? So I'll just say, look, I'd love to, but in order to be fair to the client who last week paid me the full fee, we need to have a reason to agree to this discount, right? So what can we do to have a reason to do this other than just, you don't know the money? That's not a reason. And then, by the way, in order for this to really work and, and be practical, there has to be a number in your head where you're just like, I'm going to say, like, you have to be willing to walk away, right? If at the end of the day, you're going to say yes to whatever number they give you, then this doesn't work. So there has to be a number. And if you're 2,500, maybe the number is 1,000. You have to pick what the number is, where you just say, sorry, I'm not the speaker for you. Right. And that's where I will go to a list of people I have who I don't know their fee necessarily, but I know what kind of range they're in. And depending on the topic, I'll say, look, I can recommend these 2 or 3 people. They might be more in your range. And that allows me to still help the client out and be helpful and hopefully give somebody else an opportunity. But we do have to be willing to say, and it's not, and not take it personally, and not in either direction, right? So one of the things that I've come to learn, I heard it, but I didn't really get it, I guess, is that some clients are just not your clients. They're just not the right client for you, and that's okay, right? They're going to be a great opportunity for somebody else, or they're going to value what you do so much that they come back. So that's the other thing that happens. Is sometimes you're going to say no to a client and they'll come back to you 2 months later, 6 months later, 3 years later. I had a client come back not that long ago and they're like, we were waiting until the conference was big enough, that the budget was big enough, that we could bring you in. Like, you've been on our radar for a couple of years. And now we have the budget. But if I had said yes to the discounted one, then they just would have hired me then for less money.
I have just a quick question in regards to all of that, because watching, seeing that there are different speakers and everybody has their niche and stuff like that. And let's say that it is healthcare or whatever. And let's say that all four of us can speak to the same group. There's some people who only will speak with corporate and so on. My question is this. If, let's say, I don't know, Ambulance NB or something like that will contact Mark Black, Mark speaks that year, but let's say they have a budget the next year, they want to get someone again. They've already had Mark.
Yeah.
Why is it that there is no one who's come up with, almost like creating a community of speaker around themselves, like you, and I'm not dissing anybody, but I'm just thinking, like, you as a professional, and you've been doing this for so long, to actually, listen to several speakers like you got a chance to do on Monday, but to have that network of speakers who speak to the same organizations, and then there can be a kickback. Let's say that you refer, one of us, and that you get a chance to go because you sent us, then there's a kickback. It might not be huge, but it could be 10%. And if I charge 2,000, you get 200 in your pocket for referring me, because you're not going to get the gig anyway. So my question is, because in everything there seems to be this constant sense of competition, right? And really, like,
so I think the good news, Michelle, is that does exist. It exists, but it's usually, in my experience anyway, it's on a small scale. So it's a couple of speakers will get together, of similar fee levels, not necessarily exactly the same, but similar. And they'll trade leads with each other. So for example, I have two other colleagues, Michelle and Sarah, and we all work in healthcare a lot. We all have fees in the $75,000 to $10,000 range. And we will often, in our thank you letter or message to the client, say, hey, listen, if you're looking for somebody next year, I've got a couple of great suggestions for you. And sometimes the client is like, yeah, great, send them over. And sometimes the client's like, no, you know what? We meet together as a committee every year. It's a new committee. It's a new group every year. I'm not even going to be involved next year. Like, often it's a case of the client doesn't ask and doesn't want the input. But when the client does want the input, then I have the opportunity to say, look, if you liked me, you're going to love Sarah or Michelle. They're both great. So I think, yes, that's a great idea. And yes, it does happen. It's a matter of being proactive, finding a couple of speakers who speak on different things, but under the same umbrella that it fits within a certain audience, and then saying, hey, let's work together on this. Because the other thing we also do is, if the client doesn't ask for my opinion, we will still share leads. So we'll just go through our list from, like, I'll go through my list from last year of everywhere I spoke and say, hey, Sarah, I think you'd be great for this one. Michelle, I think you'd be great for this one. And we do introductions. We'll send an email to the client and be like, hey, great working with you 3 months ago at this event, blah, 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 blah. When you come to plan for next year, meet Sarah. Here's her website. I think she'd be a great fit. I'll leave it to you to connect. And sometimes it goes nowhere, but sometimes it results in business. And in our case, we have a good enough relationship among the three of us that we just kind of trust it'll all come out in the wash. So we don't do individual commission payments to each other. We just kind of feel like if we all just refer each other enough, it's going to all kind of even out. But I know others who have that relationship. They're just like, just to keep it clean, every referral that I book from you, I'll send you a check. And so again, as long as everybody's on the same page, do it however you want to do it.
For the record, if anyone refers me for a gig, I'll give them 10%. Just so we're very clear.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, just on a quick note, Jason, you mentioned when you shared your website, any feedback. I went and I looked at your website. I really love it because it's very clean. And as I can see, you're working on under construction, but I would suggest that your page where it talks about conference, duplicate it because you're obviously working or getting someone to work on one, and make sure that there's none of all the, because right now below your picture, which is really nice, it's all the, I don't know what program you're using, but it kind of looks like what Wix uses.
Yeah,
That generic Latin type of language.
yeah.
So if you duplicate your page, you can work one, but only publish the one that has none of that,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe
Yeah,
just
the-
one paragraph under
Yeah,
G.
because the English version of the conference page is up, but the
It's
first
just
version-
that page, because I mean, you could get somebody tomorrow or today, and if they look at that one page, they see under construction, it's
Yeah.
clean. But if they look at it that way, anyway, just a thought.
Yeah, great.
Nice
thank you.
picture, by the way.
Thank you. That's sweet.
FYI, for at least Michelle and Jason, just while I think of it, we just started to use a tool a couple of months ago called Convey This. And what it does, it works in Coach Lab. I think it'll work in any website because it's just a piece of code. What it does is basically provides a live translation from English to French of any web page. So, and I think it actually does multiple languages. It charges you like per word. I forget exactly what it works out to. It doesn't, it's like my bill is like $30 a month or something. It's not much. But when I've been for years being like, I need to translate my website, and I still do. But in the interim, this was a cheap stopgap solution, and the translation is pretty good. So
Yeah, I've been using well, Wix. Wix has not Convey This, but some kind of other API for translation, and I've used it, and it's decent. It's decent. You have to contextualize the content, obviously, but
right.
otherwise, that functions.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're talking about that versus, when you're paying web designers and you're having to create like
Oh
basically
yeah,
two full websites,
Yeah.
it's a much cheaper solution. Yeah.
Mm.
All right, folks. Thanks for joining us again. As always, if there's questions in the interim, shoot me a message, let me know. I'll post this to the group, and we'll see you next week.
You guys.
Thank you very much.